Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another RLCS video. Today, we are going to be recapping Regional Number Two's Swiss rounds, as well as getting into the final bracket, our big predictions, and of course, the statistical importance of it all. And also, I'd like to go over a little bit of the major implications now that we have just a little bit more done. Some big things have happened that will just shake up the entire possibility of who's making the major. So, some big things to look at. First of all, I got 7 out of 8 right yet again. I got 7 out of 8 right, correct for round 1. Actually, I got like a majority of those perfectly correct too, which was wild. Only thing I didn't get correct is that Omelette came back to beat Dignitas. Dignitas was not having a good day whatsoever. I have a little bit of Dignitas statistics on it. 37.5% win rate. Looking at it, well below average points per game, well below average goals per game, definitely below average assists per game at 0.81. Not even many saves per game at 4.5, which is kind of shocking. So it seemed like just not a lot of defense being played. And then shots to goals looks like maybe a 20%, as well as the big thing of Gyro actually getting the lowest rating out of any player, at least according to my rating scale, where he got a 6.3 rating. That's on a base 10 scale. That's the absolute lowest score anyone got. So it seemed like it was just not Gyro's day. Very unfortunate for Dignitas. But it was fortunate for some other teams. OG, who had to face Genji round 1 yet again, started off pretty poorly, of course, losing Genji, then getting swept by deleted XD. But then they just flipped a switch, sweeping Akron Zips, sweeping Dignitas, and then sweeping Incorrect. I think that they got a little bit lucky in round number 5 to get some pretty decent wins. Another team that made it through, NRG, with their sub of Drees. Let's see, what did they do? They lost to M80, valid loss. Then they beat G Buffo. They swept Luminosity, and then they sweep Incorrect to make it at number 3. So they get the 3 seed NRG. Well, that's just wild to me. I think it's the fact that they definitely played some easier opponents. Genji, BOG, swept Pirates, and then lose to M80 in the round number 3 uh, topmost bracket area. They get swept by M80. Not even close. That's an absolute shocker. Which, to be fair, I guess that's not too surprising because of the fact that M80 did the same thing in the first regional at 2-0, beat Genji. Last time it was a 3-1. But M80 then also lost their first round afterwards in the quarterfinals. So seems like M80 just like need that momentum to start off the day where, they beat NRG, they beat TSM, then they have what it takes to beat Genji. But we'll have to see how they do in the playoffs when they don't have that warm up. And I mean, yeah, Dignitas is that big kind of upset. Losing to Omelette round 1, beat Leftovers, losing to Pirates on a boat, which it feels like they definitely should have beaten, and then getting swept by OG. Just some weird stuff for Dignitas, and then G2 is just G2. Only thing that I feel like I really need to point out is the fact that round 2, Space Station did beat Luminosity in game 5. I keep saying Luminosity is the better team, and now Space Station showed what they got. So I feel like Space Station definitely have to move up in my rankings. Let's go ahead though and look at the playoffs so we can start making predictions. And getting things going here, our seeds created so that G2 plays Pirates on a boat, Gen G against Space Station. That's really critical, actually, that G2 and Gen G, at most, one of them can get semifinals while the other, of course, can win. That's really big major implications for a lot of other teams. We'll get into that right afterward. And then M80 against OG and NRG against Luminosity. I feel like one side of the bracket's definitely a little bit harder than the other, considering one side has 4 teams that made top 8 last time, while the other side has 2. Let's go ahead and get right into it, though. G2 against Pirates on a boat. I'm not going to lie. G2 are dominant. They're above everyone else by a long shot. I say they just sweep Pirates on a boat. Honestly, I don't even think it's close. G2 looked amazing. Just trying to look at a couple little things. And things that I want to point out is the fact that G2 had one of the highest assist participations. 88% of their goals got assisted, while Pirates on a Boat had an 81%, but they did have the higher shooting percentage, which is going to be interesting. I do think G2 definitely should beat Pirates on a Boat by a long shot. Maybe Pirates can take a game or two. And then we have Gen G against Space Station. This is definitely a pretty critical one. Space Station, top 8 last regional. I feel like they definitely need to beat Gen G in order to be in the big conversation of making major. But Gen G, I think, are definitely going to take this. This is going to be much closer, probably a 4-2. Space Station have the pieces to create a really incredible team. Definitely a major worthy team. But even if they beat Luminosity, that only puts them 5-6 seed. Definitely not enough to be making majors, especially not against Gen G, which is a top team. And then we have M80 against OG. And I'm not going to lie, I could see OG winning this. I really could see OG winning this. I mean, looking at the stats, M80 like barely gets ahead of OG in everything except for shot percentage and saves per game because OG's playing more. Like, it's actually insanely close how close all of these statistics are. They're right next to each other. M80 had a 7.7 rating, while I had OG at a 7.5 rating right below them. Very close. Honestly, I'm going to say that this is going to be a game 7 match. I am going to give it to M80 just because I think they're the better team. But I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if OG just shows up and takes everything. Like, I could see them winning this. Just with that momentum wave of last time. They've shown it in the past in the offseason. They definitely have what it takes to win. They just need it on the given day. And then we have NRG against Luminosity. And despite Luminosity going 3-2, making it to that last round, they actually topped my ratings. By far the most points per game, 3 goals per game, which was second highest behind Gen G, a 32% shooting, 81% assist participation, and the big thing, of course, 6.2 demos per game. The next highest, G2 at 5.6. So they're crushing that demo game still. And every time that I think of Drees, I'm sorry for him for this. I think of his first time making a major and getting swept by Falcons. And I don't think that Drees has that clutch factor that Mist and Garrett have. So sadly, in a well, I don't want to call it a 3v2, but essentially a 3v2. I do think that Luminosity is going to take this. I want to say a 4-2 NRG. I think that you can't be switching players this often and expect to be making a top 4 finish. They look solid, but I don't think it's going to happen. I will say though, Mist, I called it. He did a phenomenal job. I mean, one of the highest points per game, over a goal per game, almost an assist per game, 2 saves per game, 3 shots per game, 2 demos per game. Mist was on the field in every position. Garrett got 17th, and then when I look for Drees, I have to go pretty far down to 44th out of 48 players. It's a 2-man roster right now of Garrett and Mist, and I don't think that they can do that. Then we have G2 against Gen G. I mean, these guys obviously played in NA Qualifier 1, and how did that end? It ended with G2 dominating in a sweep, not even an OT. I am, of course, going to give Gen G, I'm going to give them 2 games this time. I'm going to give them 2 games. G2, though, they're the winners. Like, I don't think anyone can doubt G2 is the best in North America by a long shot. I think Gen G and M80 are both competing for that second place. Speaking of that, M80 against Luminosity. This is this is definitely an interesting one. Of course, I have bias in favor of Luminosity. I love the players, I love the team, I love everything they do. and I'm going to give it to them. I this is statistically an incorrect prediction. Of course, M80 is the better team on paper, but also M80 wasn't actually doing that much. In all honesty, they were completely average in a majority of their statistics. Just looking at it was all very, very average except for saves per game because they didn't have to play defense. I think Luminosity will make them play defense. I think that M80 is a roster of three really talented players, but when you have players like Reddles on the field constantly taking you out, stealing your boost, I want to see how M80 really fights that. And then the grand finals, G2 against Luminosity. And the bias ends here. I'll give Luminosity one game. One game, but G2 by a long shot are winning this regional. Like, I don't think any of us can doubt that. G2 is North America. That yeah, I don't think it's close. And I just want to show you guys how my prediction would end up making the points. And so on the left side, that is what the totals look like right now. Um, with the every team that made the playoffs only having 6, because that's all the points they have confirmed. But you can see it's actually a really close race. Everything between third all the way down to ninth at Shopify Rebellion, even a little bit lower. But I mean, those are the teams that aren't really making as far. OG, of course, if they beat M80, pop right up alongside those teams. And then you have G2 and Gen G, of course, pushing it way ahead. And given my current thoughts, this is what the points would look like afterward. You'd have G2 100% confirmed. Um, if G2 wins this regional, 100% confirmed in the major without any second thought. If they get second, it's like 99% likely. If they get anything else, they still have to fight. Genji, I mean, yeah, if they get stopped by G2, then they're still like they still have to push for stuff. But they would only need to get, I think it's top 4 in the next one then, to make it, maybe even top 8, mattering on how everyone plays. And then Luminosity with a big push up, M80 with a little bit of a push up, and then Dignitas, Space Station, Pirates on a Boat, Energy, and Shopify down below. Shopify took a massive hit by not even making top 16. So they would need to either win the next regional or at least make top 2. Top 2 would get them to 22 points. So even then, it's looking very unlikely. Shopify will have to win the regional, but we're not even going to look at them yet because we'll figure out all the actual calculations what people need after this weekend. Luminosity would be looking pretty strong though. They would definitely need a top 2 to guarantee in the next one if they got second in this one. Top 4 would most likely confirm them if they get top 2 in this one. M80, I think in a similar boat, I think that just another top 4 would do them, would get them in. Maybe even a top 8, depending on things. But we don't want to look too far ahead, guys. We are going to be, of course, looking at all the major stuff next week. Because Europe is going to be happening next week, I have a Vitality video that I'm going to be working on of just what happened to Vitality, why they, not get first place for once. That will be coming out next week, and then we'll be looking at the North American point rankings as well as maybe just like, a couple other regions, just to keep you guys updated on those. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do like all my statistical work, make sure to go like and subscribe down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. This is still a fairly new channel, only 39 subscribers. So if you did enjoy, that'd just be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys next week for a lot more. Also, let me know what your guys' thoughts are of my final bracket down below. Greatly appreciate that. All right, that's all. Peace out.